The time is 7:03. I'll call to order the City of Torrington Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for March 23rd, 2022. Attendance this evening is by Zoom or in person at City Hall Auditorium, room 218, 140 Main Street, Torrington, Connecticut. Instructions for Zoom are available online at www.torringtonct.org/Zoom. There's a link there to join the meeting. The phone number to call in is 1-646-558-8656. Meeting ID 795-950-7035, passcode 907148. Agenda item number 2, attendance. Serving on the commission this evening in person, Greg Parasino, Starley Arias, Donna Greco, myself, Greg Mealy. Serving remotely is Donovan Riley, Tom Tellman, and Diane Carroll. Also in person is our city planner, Jeremy Lightford. We have no announcements, I believe. Right, Jeremy?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 3, minutes for approval. A for February 16th, 2022. I have a motion from.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Second.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Moving on to.
I have to abstain as well.
Thank you, Donovan. The time is 7:04. Moving on to agenda item number 4, public hearing scheduled for 7 p.m. Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, City Hall Auditorium, room 218, 140 Main Street, Torrington, Connecticut. A, special exception 22-02, site plan 1402 and site plan 1403. Applicant Amy A. Samuelson, AIA, the Slam Collaborative. Locations 50 Major Bessie Drive and 277 Winthrop Street. Proposal, construct new Torrington High School, new middle school, and new central office administration. Serving on the commission this evening is Greg Parasino, Starley Arias, Donna Greco, myself, Greg Mealy. In person, serving remotely is Donovan Riley, Tom Tellman, and Diane Carroll. Also in attendance in person is our city planner, Jeremy Lightford. Is the applicant in attendance, please? Please come forward to state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Amy Samuelson, representing the SLAM Collaborative. I'm the project manager for the architecture firm, and I have with me today the landscape architect, Henry Withers. I have Will Walter, the civil engineer with Benesh, and Steve Ullman, traffic engineer.
Thank you.
Kim Warhart, another architect on our team.
Very good. Would you give us a brief overview? Are you going to connect in or?
I'd like to share screen. if
Please.
I can. So first, if I could, we'll play a quick animation showing the overview of the project. This is going to start at the entrance at Major Bessie Drive, and then it'll fly around the building so that you get an idea of the project. But before I do that, just to give you an overview, and I think you've seen the drawings, this is a building for the middle and high school, 7th grade through 12th, that will replace eventually the existing Torrington High School on the same site. For the duration of construction, we'll be building the school in the parking lot of the existing high school, and then we will move over a summer, move the high school into the new building, demolish the existing building, and then complete the construction and renovate the site. So we'll share some site plans. We'll get into details about stormwater management and traffic and plantings as soon as I share this video first, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Okay. Interestingly, this was a little ahead of what I was seeing on the screen. So I wanted to talk over it, but I was not on the same timing. I'm going to now switch to a different screen. And so in essence, the building is a 4-story high school wing, a 3-story middle school wing, and in between and connecting those two are some shared spaces, the auditorium, for example, which is in the center of the courtyard, and the food service. There are separate dining halls, but the servery and the kitchen are shared. And then each school has its own gymnasium as well and locker rooms. But those shared amenities are around the building. I'll share plan here. So on the screen, you can see the existing building site, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And this is showing the new building on the site located in the parking area. This is the animation that you saw, and the athletic fields replacing some portion of where the existing building is. You can see it ghosted in this image. The new building on the new site. The existing stadium field will remain and will be in use throughout the construction and remain in place after construction as well. And then we'll be adding to the school other amenities, including 2 baseball fields, 2 softball fields, and a multi-purpose field. And 4 tennis courts will replace the existing 4 tennis courts. And there's an alternate for the project to do 6 tennis courts if budget allows. Zooming in on the building, you can see that the high school wing, can you see the cursor? Yes. The high school wing is the curved wing that faces Route 8 and Bessie Pond. And that wing is 4 stories with a partial lower level, that lower level access to the pre-K parking lot. Thank you. If I use this pointer, people on Zoom can't see, but.
Sorry, that's me. I'm just trying to move this.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't see the pointer now. Okay, I'm going to go back to my cursor. Okay, so I think I explained where the high school wing is. The middle school wing is a straight wing, again, 3 stories. And the connector includes a shared band room and auditorium and support spaces for the auditorium and the music department. The dining rooms are called out here on the left at the end of the middle school wing, and accessed on the 2nd floor by its own stair is the middle school dining. The high school dining is on the 1st floor, located in this area. The shared kitchen is between them. Also at the end of the middle school wing is the middle school gym, and next to it is the support spaces for the middle school gym and locker rooms. The high schoolers will come across the main corridor and enter the high school gym, which is located in the location of the existing high school gym. We're reusing the structure of that gym so that you're able to keep the same size gymnasium, which is really advantageous for you. And then we're renovating all of the support spaces adjacent to the gym to include a new fitness room and locker rooms. And we're adding this portion of the building here, which will be the new auto shop.
Where's the auto shop? Oh,
Can you
right
see
there.
my cursor? Yes. Okay,
Where's
so
the new admin building? That's
the central office admin is on the,
detached, correct?
it's on the 4th floor of the high school wing,
Okay,
actually.
so it's in the building now.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm. It is accessed by a private entrance at number 3 on this image, or where my cursor is now, and has its own vestibule where people will get buzzed in and out, take an elevator or stairs directly to the 4th floor.
So you have the band area, you have the 2 cafeterias. What's the next space? It's triangular.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
This is the kitchen and some support spaces like
Okay.
storage,
That's the
custodial,
kitchen space.
and there's a loading dock back here.
Mhm.
So you'll see that trucks would pull around. This is a nice wide area. I'll let Henry describe better for turning radius for trucks and for deliveries, which would come to this area, number 5, where the loading dock is.
So site space constraints put the admin portion into the building.
The admin was always planned to be within the building as a part of
Because I
this
thought at one point
project.
it was a separate entity, separate off to the side,
I'm not aware of that, but it could have been.
in one of those. Thank you. Right. yeah.
So when you said you were going to build the high school first, how much of that? Does that include the auditorium or? how
That's
much?
correct. All of it, the high school, actually, the middle school wing will be built as well. I have a plan that shows both.
It's typically the fields that are after fact when the school,
That's correct.
existing school is demolished.
The
So
fields,
the current building can operate even though you're going to construct the entire 2 wings,
mhm, that's
both middle
correct.
school and high school.
Middle school, high school, all of the connecting spaces, including the middle school gym,
Right, not the. high
will be
school gym.
completed. The high school gym will be done after.
Later.
Mhm.
Amy, I have a question. This is Diane Carroll.
Sure.
In both the middle school and high school wings, is it just all classrooms or are there going to be any, like, you know, the old Torrington High School has shops? Is there anything like that that's offered or that's going to be built?
Sure, yes. The school has a robust program of pathways. And some of those are in the tech ed department. So those would include construction technology, an engineering lab, some graphic labs and support spaces that would digital design. And the auto shop is also considered one of those tech ed spaces.
And that's
And
just,
then
that's just in the high school wing?
those are the high school ones. The middle school has 2 maker spaces and a digital graphics engineering kind of,
Okay, great.
smaller scale.
Right.
Yes,
Thank you.
sure. So on the screen now, you see an image of the front entrances, main entrances for both the middle school and the high school. The idea is to clearly identify the separate curriculum and separate buildings, although they're connected in the back. They will have separate administrations, and so a visitor would clearly be able to identify which building or which school they're going to. This is an image of the gymnasium entrance or the assembly wing entrance. This is where the bus drop-off would let students off in the morning and pick up in the afternoon, but it's also where we expect visitors to come for basketball games, events in the auditorium, and that sort of thing. Any kind of use of the building after hours. This image is taken from Bessie Pond, obviously, showing the full 5 stories because you can see the lower level of the high school there. Coming around the corner. There's an elevator and stair tower that serves the high school on that side. And this is an image of the middle school wing, 3 stories, a little bit intentionally smaller scale and only serving 2 grades. Both academic wings are primarily brick exterior wall surface We have some metal panel to highlight the entrances and curtain wall, as you saw. And then we have a polished concrete block for the gymnasium wing and around back, and also for the auditorium. So any questions on materiality? I do have an exterior material board that you're welcome to view. Heavy.
Amy, I have a question.
Sure. Yes.
Go ahead, Donovan.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg. Does the construction take into account, or is it required to reflect the updated technology necessary to keep up with the internet and the way that that classes are taught now? Is that one of the requirements at this level in terms of the construction that you're going to do
Sure.
or
So
proposing?
the school will have a very strong technology infrastructure. It'll include both hardwired for data connections and wireless access points. All of the school teaching classrooms and teaching spaces will have smart boards and touchscreen technology for the teachers, and really state-of-the-art technology built in, including sound reinforcement for those who are, challenged hearing, and, current modern security system, PA system, and the like.
Do you have full generator backup on this building?
We do have a generator backup. It will serve all life safety.
Right.
It will serve the coolers and refrigeration in the kitchen, and then some primary spaces.
Thank you.
It won't
You
run,
all set,
it
Donovan?
won't run like the air conditioning of the building.
Right.
It's not that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I can turn over the presentation now to landscape and civil engineers, and they can get into more detail about the site.
Please. Thank you, Amy.
Hi, good evening. My name is Henry Withers. I'm a licensed landscape architect in the state of Connecticut and a member of the SLAM Collaborative. And I've been working with Amy and the design team and Will to help design the site. And we've actually been working with Jeremy and the city staff as well on some of the logistics that we'll get into in a little bit. But Amy gave you a general overview, and I'm going to try to keep my overview to more of an executive summary as well. So because you've already heard some of this, but I just want to make sure that you're aware of everything going on. So as you know, the site is located off of Winthrop Street is the main drive, Bessie Drive, and Daily Drive is the cul-de-sac to the back, and we do plan to have a bus access from that drive. So you'll have access from both Winthrop and Daily. And then Route 8 is clearly to the west there. North is to the right of the page on this graphic. And the Route 8, the Bessie Pond overflow is actually running behind the building as well. We do have access all the way around the building for fire and emergency egress, but we plan on putting a gate down by the playground area and really limiting traffic to the areas that are specific to destinations where people are going, such as the bus drop off or visitor parking or the student parking.
That gated area, just for directional, it's where that number 4 is, right?
Yeah.
That's correct. It's just above the number 4.
Is this a touchscreen?
It is,
Yeah, so,
yeah,
oops,
that's-
I blew it. And this doesn't work.
Battery must be dead on that, but I can blow it up.
It's about 6:30 where that number 4 is.
Mhm.
We can see it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you, Ken. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. This one,
It's the red-
there we go.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's it right there. So one of the nice things about this, as Amy mentioned, is we are looking at, here, where are you? There we go. We are looking, at keeping the existing school open. And actually, right now, again, we're working with Jeremy and city staff, fire and police too, and ONG to understand how that's all going to happen. But we will be able to construct this project down in this location and keep the school open. And when it's done, the nice thing about this project is it consolidates all the athletic fields up above and keeps all the school facilities down below. Very nice connection to Bessie Park. We have a nice greenscape along here that we're leaving sort of open through there, saving some of the existing large pines that are down in that area. That's again where the little playground is down there. Service into the back, wood shop down here and the auto shop here, all sort of on the back side of the building here, but very convenient and very useful locations. The shared parking here is, as you know, the parcels, there's 2 parcels, the Bessie Park parcel and the school parcel. They're a total of around 34.94 acres. And we are sharing some of the parking with Bessie Park. So this area here becomes faculty parking, but also serves Bessie Park as well, especially during the busier months during the summer. And so there are crosswalks that are provided both here and here at this parking lot that serve both facilities. There's a sidewalk that connects on both sides all the way around, and then feeds into Bessie Park. One of the things that we looked at is the overall coverage. Will's going to get into the drainage later, but as part of this project and the changes we've made to the pavement, we've actually increased the impervious area by 1.96%. We've gone from 32.98 to 34.94. So not a huge increase. And again, I think the things that will explain later will actually improve the general drainage going into Bessie Pond, which we feel is a benefit, and ultimately down the sluiceway along Route 8. We're also going to be restoring quite a bit of green space up in here that's closest to the neighbors, and that's sort of a nice touch as well. The fields will be up on that portion of the site and kind of abutting the back end of the apartments over here as well. This parking lot is already an existing parking lot. We're just cleaning it up a little bit and reconfiguring it. We had a few comments from wetlands about the location of this island, and we've actually shifted it a bit to get off of a main trunk line, a storm line that's over there. And so that'll be a very minor change that we're looking at. We're trying to respond to staff comments as we get them, but they're not anything major so far. This is a nice open courtyard that will be used for outdoor learning. And this is a kind of a theater space right out of the auditorium, out of their theater inside, actually. It's an outdoor theater. And then another little classroom space right there. So all that green space could be used for a number of things. ARC was very pleased with the functions of that. And I guess a couple of the members had gone to high school here and were interested in seeing the outdoor theater there. We do provide a connection from the school and from the parking up to the football stadium. And we are now looking again as a staff comment and an input from the building committee about providing a little gate right here and then surrounding that out so that there can be controlled access during football games for ticket sales and what have you. And that's going to be a fairly simple tie-in. We're probably going to tie into the tennis court fencing that we are going to be putting in place. So that's an overview of the site. The parking we've provided meets the requirements of the town. In fact, we're over by about 4 spaces. Again, it's a shared facility, so we're hoping that, the school has some control over how much parking they need by how many students they allow to park on site. And again, we've provided a fire lane. We've provided gates at the daily cul-de-sac so that it's really controlled for bus traffic only. We are looking at several fairly significant retaining walls because of the grade change throughout the site. And that would be these along here. And the idea is that they're unit masonry. Again, we're working with ONG to have a block that picks up on the basic masonry on the building itself, has the same coloration. So it looks like it's all part of the same project. And the parking required was 462. That's based on the number of employees, the number of students, and the staff. And we've worked with the building committee on that. And we're providing 466, so 4 over the 462. Lighting. The
Can I
lighting
interrupt?
that we're
I just want to interrupt for a
providing.
second.
Oh, yes.
So the maximum parking and all that, that's based on maximum capacity of the school itself.
It's based on the student
In other
count
words,
and the staff
school
and
is
every,
capped out. You can't
Yes.
put any more people in it.
yes.
Okay.
Well, that's based on a future, so it's based on the maximum enrollment.
Yes,
of the school,
right.
Not the current.
No, not the current. I'm talking about what you're building the building out to.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And,
Okay.
Just a quick question. Can you point out where your public parking is for parents on this map?
Yeah. So that would be in this location here,
Okay, and then your administration building is inside the high school wing?
is right there.
Okay,
So they would walk over here down this sidewalk.
and about how far is that walk?
So it's
Estimate.
probably about 200 feet.
Okay. And there, those, I'm taking that those are sidewalks, those passageways are all sidewalks.
Yes, these are all sidewalks, the concrete sidewalks that come from the parking areas
The
to
material that we're thinking for that is
concrete.
concrete.
There are a few walks that are within this courtyard that are bituminous, but most of the walks surrounding the school and coming up along the driver, the concrete. Those are bituminous wells, these walks that are crossing the athletic fields coming down to get to the school from the eastern part of the site.
The existing skate park that's there, that's proposed to be relocated somewhere.
The existing what?
Skate park.
Skate park, oh, yeah.
Yes.
they're working on that.
Come up.
A relocation is being
Determined.
considered.
Okay.
Determined.
It's quite expensive to relocate it. So, yeah.
Well, the cost of it is covered. It's really the question of where to locate it.
But ultimately, that space is being repurposed into
Yeah.
parking as it was in the past.
Correct.
Okay, thank
We'd
you.
like to maximize parking. New faculty brought to the site.
Thank you.
And there was a question earlier about some of the different things like the shops and, a little bit more non-academic activities. One of the things that you have currently up in this location up here is the Sugar Shack. And that would also, that we're working with the building committee to relocate that as well. So that will also be one of the functions that goes on in this site.
Mhm.
So it's a modular building. It's sort of I hate to use a brand name, but it's like a Cloder Farm type building, and it's very easily moved. It's on basically a sled.
Mhm.
So
Um,
your administration building is inside the high school, and that's gonna oversee both the high school and the middle school?
So not to be confused with the administration. Each school has their own principal and administration.
Mhm.
The central administration offices that we're locating on the 4th floor of this wing are for the whole school district, including pre-K all the way through elementary. Pre-K elementary all the way through high school. So that's the superintendent's office and other
Okay,
staff
And then the
supporting.
principal offices are all located on the
First floor
of each
entrance,
school?
main entrance of the school. Mhm. Correct.
Just to touch briefly, we did provide Jeremy a photometric plan. The basic notion of the lighting of the site is that we are relocating 7 of the existing fairly new fixtures that were put in as part of the whole stadium. Those are these fixtures that you see here, the existing at the stadium over there to the left of the page. And we're proposing a fixture that's kind of similar in style and nature to a degree. It's got a 3000 Kelvin source. The pedestrian lights would be the same scale as this, which is a 12-foot pedestrian light sitting on a similar base. And then the parking light is the same Guardco light, same fixture as this. It's just on an arm bracket on a pole, and those would be at 22 feet. And those have varying poles, varying fixtures. There's singles, doubles, quads, you know.
So they're all
site.
3000 K.
Yes, mhm, yeah. So it's a very soft light,
Yeah.
kind of nice, not
Nice warm.
harsh given
Yeah.
the surrounding community.
And every, sorry, every type of fixture that you're looking at are all full cutoffs.
Yes. With regard to signage, you know, we plan to bring that back as a separate application, but generally there will be a main sign at Winthrop. There'll be some signage just indicating that Daily is a bus route only and, you know, not a general entrance, be a downplayed sign. We are relocating the T, and I don't know, Amy, if you want to bring it to like one of the site plans, I think you probably saw it in the fly through, but it's located on the mound that's sort of just, yeah, there we go, that one would work. Well, yeah, that would work, that would work. So it's gonna be, that's that little orange
Mhm.
dot right there.
Mhm.
My hand isn't steady enough to do it.
Yep.
So that way it'll be seen by a number of people coming into the site. It'll be seen every morning by the buses coming in, dropping people off as
So
well.
another question.
Yes, sir.
You have a lot of roof. Did anyone consider solar?
Yes, while it's not afforded by the project, we have, we're planning to put enough panel capacity and locations for inverters on the building and conduit in place. And our engineers have come up with what the KW
Yep.
is, the capacity.
So that'd be like a separate project. That's really not going to be able to.
It could be a separate project, or it could be a PPA, you know, provided by the solar
Right.
company. And
Right.
Mhm.
But it's not going to be part of the actual, I mean, the funds to do that can't come out of the building funds.
Correct.
Right.
But structurally, the building is set for
Set
that
for it, right.
That's
added
right.
load on it and so forth.
Absolutely.
And you've communicated with the Department of Energy on, you know, potential future projects or anything like that? As you,
Energy.
the state has several different programs, which, you know, the governor has been working on towards
Mhm.
green buildings, making sure that we're going forward to meet the state's energy efficiency.
Yes, we
goals.
have. So as a part of the state project and funding requirements, we are meeting the equivalent of LEED Silver, which is what the Connecticut High Performance building requirements are. And so we're proceeding with that. We also are looking for utility company funding or
Rebates.
rebates. Thank you. Lost that word. With our energy consultant.
Mhm.
So.
Just, I guess, jumping back to the signage question real quick. I know there was some, when we met with ARC, there was some concern on marking of the actual property addresses at the street. It's kind of strange because it's, if you're marking from from Winthrop Street, it's sort of an interior lot. So we, you know, I think we need just working with the fire department or anybody in public safety really to make sure just the addresses are labeled from the streets. How we do that, I
That
don't
could
know.
be high school,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, Smith Lane, whatever it
Yep.
is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because the park has a different address than the high school does. And
Right, so right now the high school has an address, one number. And if the city determines that they'd like a separate number for the middle school, that's fine.
So
Well,
all-
obviously, from a life safety standpoint, fire and so forth, I'm assuming it's all gonna be an addressable fire alarm system where the
Yeah.
smoke detector comes in, it's in the janitor closet located third floor,
That's correct.
southwest wing.
Mhm.
So,
Yep, there will be one fire alarm system, but there will be multiple fire alarm annunciator panels at not all of the main entrances. And we've had meetings with the fire marshal, but we actually have another one scheduled for tomorrow morning, so we'll be reviewing and getting his approval. Fully sprinklered building.
So all of the buses are going to be coming to the back of the building? If that's what Daily Drive is,
So the administration will determine, I think, once the number of students is really determined, what the access is. Buses look, during construction, we are going to mandate that buses all enter from Daily Drive. So during the 2 years of construction, 2 school years, all buses will come in through Daily Drive. They'll go to a temporary parking area. I can show you that plan in a second. And they'll exit again through Daily Drive.
Amy, are you able to speak up? I can barely hear you.
Sure, sorry.
Thank you.
So during construction, all buses will go in and out through Daily Drive. And that's really because we don't want to have more traffic at Bessie, which would now include construction vehicles as well as during parent drop-off and pickup and student drivers. So we're going to keep the buses separate from all of that. Once the building is open, it's really up to the administration how the buses are going to come. What we've determined is where the bus loop is. So I'll show you here. Buses can come in Major Bessie up and around. They'll drop off here at number 2, this circle. They can also come in and out through Daily Drive and access the same convenient kind of bus loop there.
Mhm.
Parent drop-off will be primarily and required to be at this front loop. And so students being dropped off by their parents would come in through the main entrances. And then the parent drop-off would exit through the same Bessie Drive.
Amy, it's Diane Carroll again. I have another question. That courtyard that is between the middle and high school buildings there.
Yes.
So that is just what, like a grassy areas with shrubbery?
It is. I'll let Henry describe the plantings. There are 2 small patio areas, well, 3. One at the backside of the auditorium, one adjacent to some middle school classrooms, and one adjacent to the high school wing. And so we anticipate that small gatherings, small group work or a class at a time could use those outdoor classroom areas.
Was there any thought given to actually having garden areas? Like not so much a community garden, but, raised beds?
Yeah, actually, we just discussed that. And that's something we'd love feedback from the building committee on. We could certainly, the idea came up, do you plant a victory garden? We've done that in different schools, and it depends on the teacher taking care of it as to whether it becomes a weed bed or a garden. But it's certainly a possibility, and maybe there's a better location for it where the flexibility of it and how much it's used won't be as critical. This will be fairly used space and a nice viewing area from all the classrooms, as well as, it's graded in a way that lets people sort of sit on an embankment and look at the presentations. The ARC was interested in us sort of leaving this middle part. We're going to shift some of these trees a little bit out so we could leave the middle part open so that if they did want to have a larger white tent or something like that for an event, they could do that. So we see that as a really useful multi-purpose space where any kind of an event could take place that the school might want to even offer that to, Acorn Ballet or whoever, as a possibility for presentations.
quick question
Thank you.
for Amy. In the design, is there like a maintenance garage, if you will, or maintenance section for plant maintenance, so to speak, for outdoor maintenance and so forth?
There is,
mowers, et cetera.
there's an outdoor equipment storage room,
Okay.
which would be able to house some outdoor maintenance equipment and, but primarily outdoor athletic equipment.
I see.
So that's easily accessed. The loading dock and custodial storage areas are also easily accessible from outside.
Thank you.
And just lastly, as sort of a closer before I hand it over to Will, the plantings, we went through that, was it this week or no? I guess it was at the end of last week.
Last week.
We went through those with the ARC as well. They were, in general, I think, pleased with what they saw, and that you just saw it in the model that we flew you through. The idea is that we're using native and adaptive species. We're trying to keep it to a degree minimum. You have a lot of athletic fields. You don't want leaves blowing all over, and you need to keep it fairly open for just the use of the fields. But we are trying to plant trees that are going to do well and survive in the high school environment. I know you don't always have a lot of money for maintenance, so these are tough plants. We've also made it so that mowing where we don't have to mow is minimized. The rain gardens certainly, and some of the areas down by Bessie Pond and the outlying areas are done in meadow mixes that we don't anticipate being mowed. And I think that overall it's a fairly simple plan and hardy species that will do well in the environment they're given. So I guess if there's no other questions about the site specific, do you want to go into the enabling, or do you want Will to go into some of the drainage first?
Next in my presentation is the drainage.
Okay.
So
So
I'll invite
Walter.
Will Walter to this podium.
Thanks, Amy. Good evening, commission members. For the record, Will Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Benish and Company. So the site topography generally slopes from east, which is the top of the page. There's Ruland Street up at the top in the residential areas. It generally slopes. That's the high point. It comes down. It's going east to west. And it eventually, all the stormwater is discharged. There's a pretty large drainage swale that runs along the Route 8 right-of-way. It's on the highway side of the fence that separates the school from the right-of-way.
It's that button right there.
I honestly couldn't see it when you were pointing, so I don't know if it was going to be helpful. There are two large pipes that are collecting flow from off the site and that run underneath the site and dump. One of them is on you can see the red, kind of the dark red line on the left side. It collects flow from the Ruland Street subdivision as well as the subdivision to the left. It comes down and collects in the 36-inch pipe that goes underneath the field and then dumps out into that swale on the right of way. We're not touching that pipe as it's conveying flow from off-site underneath the high school property and into the right of way. And then on the southeastern part of the site, there's the little apartment area and then the roadway system to the north. And there's a large, I think it's a 54-inch culvert that goes underneath that parking lot and dumps out onto the bank of Bessie Pond and goes into Bessie Pond. We're not touching that pipe either, as there's nothing from our site that's, get into that pipe. The flows from Bessie Pond, they come down and there's an overflow weir that during larger storm events, it overflows and gets into a swale that drains down into that large swale in the right of way. There's also two other pipes. There's a pipe networks on the site and they dump out through an 18-inch pipe and I believe a 24-inch pipe down into the swale as well. So when we talk about stormwater, there's really four items that we're talking about and that we look at to make sure we're going to meet your stormwater regulations and your planning and zoning regulations. The first one is hydrology, and that's taking a look at what is the peak flow being generated by the site under existing conditions, and then what is it under proposed conditions, and we have to make sure that it's not going to be, the peak flow is not going to be increased. The second one is hydraulics. We're looking at the pipe networks that we're designing on site and making sure that they can capture and convey the flows so there's no ponding on the site during storm events. The third one is long-term water quality to make sure after the site is built that there's going to be no degradation to Bessie Pond or downstream, wetlands or streams because of what's happening on the site. And the fourth one is the short-term water quality, which is the erosion control design that we're going to put in place during construction. I'm going to briefly hit on these four. The first one's hydrology. So we have to make sure that we're going to capture all the flows and that what we're releasing to Bessie Pond and what we're releasing to the drainage swale in Route 8, that the peak flows do not increase under proposed conditions for the design storms up to what we call a 100-year design storm. And Henry had mentioned earlier, although it's not much, we are increasing the imperviousness on site by about an acre or so. And so how we're mitigating that is you can see there's two blue square areas. Okay. There's really no room on site to put above ground detention ponds just because the site is maxed out and we're building this thing while the existing high school is going to be in use. So we have a couple of underground detention systems, which are going to consist of half moon plastic chambers that are about 5 feet high. They're pretty big. They sit on a bed of stone and they're designed with some outlet control so that the water comes in. As the water starts to fill up, it percolates down on the ground. We have a geotechnical report and test pits and boring, so we know where the high groundwater is. We're above the high groundwater. The water comes in, it percolates into the ground, which is great. We want to infiltrate as much as possible. And then during the heavier storms, as the water rises in those chambers, it spills out through our outlet control and then goes into outlet pipes. We're reusing parts of those outlet pipes that are dumping down into the Route 8 swale down there. So through our calculations, we've determined that we're decreasing the peak flows through all of the storm events up to the 100-year storm, which is what the regulations require. The second thing we look at is hydraulics, and that's the flow, the capture of the stormwater on site through area drains, trench drains, catch basins, manholes, piping, and the system that gets the flow to these underground systems. And we've designed and analyzed the new pipes that we're putting in. They can capture and convey up to a 25-year design storm, which is really a monsoon. So it's going to be able to handle a very, very large storm, which is what's required by your regulations. The third thing we look at is stormwater quality and making sure we capture the water and we treat it. Water can have pollutants. The main pollutants are from vehicular exhaust, metals, things like that get onto the bituminous drives. And so we're doing this through a series of methods, all designed in accordance with the 2004 DEP Stormwater Quality Manual. But essentially, some of the islands, the parking islands, rather than being mounded, we're depressing them. So water is going to flow through curb cuts, and then we're going to be able to, that water is going to infiltrate in the ground. We have a soil matrix that's specifically designed to help filtrate and treat the stormwater. We have hydrodynamic separators, which are swirl chambers that are also designed to remove sediment. And then also we have, as I had mentioned before, we have infiltration in those large underground detention basins. So all of the flow that's going to Bessie Pond and all of the flow that's going to that Route 8 right of way, the water quality is going to greatly increase. Right now, there's no treatment for water quality. It just comes down, it runs off the pavement and goes right into the wetlands and water courses. So we're going to be greatly improve that, and we have done it in accordance with the DEP requirements. And then the last thing we talk about with stormwater is the short term, and that's the erosion control measures that we designed to be put in place while the school's under construction. Obviously, there's a lot of open areas, a lot of exposed dirt, those types of things. So We've designed that in accordance with the 2000 DEP erosion control manual standards. And those includes things like at the entrance, there's going to be a construction entrance so that as trucks that are exiting the site after they've been going over the dirt, the tires shake out, so the dirt shakes out. Everywhere on the down gradient side around Bessie Pond and around the Route 8 swale, we're putting silt fences, hay bales. We've designed things that are called temporary sediment traps, diversion swales. All of the catch basins and area drains will have inlet traps, which are basically filter fabric that as the muddy water comes in, they're designed to filter out the sediment, allow clean water to pass through. Additionally, this site is going to be subject to a DEP stormwater construction general permit. We've submitted that. Actually, today we submitted that to DEP, and that's going to require that a qualified professional once a week and after a rain event has to go walk this entire site and look at all the erosion controls, look at the discharge locations, make sure that there's no muddy water running off the site, document that, and send that to DEP actually once a week. So that general permit is going to really help hold the contractor's feet to the fire that what we've designed is going to be implemented and maintained throughout the entirety of the project. So that's my presentation. More than happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
So you say there's no retention pond, so I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this drawing incorrectly, but it looks like you have a retention pond in the middle of the circular drive. What is that?
Yep, that's one of those depressed areas, and
One of those
that's
depressed things
designed
you were
for,
talking about?
it's like a rain garden or bioretention area. It's designed to treat the stormwater.
So out of curiosity, the filtration is a good thing, but how are they maintained? Because as they accumulate any toxic materials or such, they possibly don't degrade and go away, they build up. I mean, how do you, I mean, what's the maintenance plan for something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so what DEP has done many studies, and what they find is if you design the soil matrix correct, which is usually a foot or two of sandy topsoil, and below that is a couple layers of stone, like pea gravel, and then stone, maybe 3/4 inch crushed stone. So as the water comes in and water filters down, those toxins are they're captured and they're actually degraded. So the toxins are not accumulating.
No.
Now the sediment, the water that comes in may be laden with sediment, and that does accumulate. And the DEP has provided guidance on maintenance and operation, and we've put that on the plans. But essentially you want to cut it back several times per year. There's certain conservation mixes and meadow mixes that Henry's designed for the grasses. And then those things, as sediment accumulates, the sediment needs to be removed every 2 or 3 years. And it really depends how much sanding is done for de-icing. But we put a maintenance and operation plan on the plans.
The retention, the underground retention areas are the two blue items,
Correct.
but they obviously look a lot bigger than 5 feet. So what are you talking about when you talk about those 5-foot things?
Yep. So basically, here's the ground, and then we have a certain depth, a foot or two between the grade and the top of the system. And then it's a half moon
Oh, it's a
chambers,
half moon.
and those are 5 feet.
Okay.
And then they're 5 feet high.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, I don't know, I mean, it's probably 150 by
Yeah. I got
60,
you.
and yeah,
Okay, when you said 5 feet, I started thinking 5 feet. That's not very big.
it's very efficient.
Okay.
Will, this is Diane Carroll. I have a question for you.
Sure.
So on Daily Drive years ago, right where that small body of water that you're indicating there, that part of that street used to flood pretty quickly. So that exists, and I haven't been back there in years because it's always been blocked off. So the existing drain pipe takes care of that now. There's never any puddling of water that's going to go into the tennis courts and the fields because it's kind of a lower area in through there.
No, there shouldn't be any ponding water on this property. The analysis of Daily Drive, and if that's flooding, that was not a part of our scope. If it is flooding back there, and if it's part of the scope, it's not part of the scope.
I'm not sure if you're talking about somewhere to the south of this baseball field.
Diane, are you talking about just that little area of wetlands that's just across the access drive, right?
Yes, and I can contest to that because probably 35 years ago, my sister drove a car through there and and the car stalled because there was so much standing water right in that area.
Yeah, so that's actually delineated wetlands, and we have wetlands in the pink areas. That's where the wetlands are.
Right, I understand that. So what I'm saying is that existing drainage pipe in the red that you're noting that goes from from Daily Drive all the way to past the football field, that takes care of any standing water that's ever pooled in there since, I'm assuming.
Well, we're actually putting some drainage in that drive.
Okay,
And we're going to capture, whatever water is there. It's going to get into that pipe and flow out towards the swale in the right of way.
okay. I'm just thinking of the tennis courts and all that. If those start to flood, it's going to deteriorate the material, no?
Yeah, no, those tennis courts, those are not going to flood.
Okay.
So I guess just to focus in on the questions we had for, I guess at wetlands, can you just, is there a way to zoom in on that? On that, where that red pipe, yeah, right where your cursor is pretty much just up above that, where that red pipe comes down and empties into the pond. You could see where that basin or that, yeah, see,
Into
that
Bessie
was
Pond?
what we wanted, what we asked to get adjusted. I guess.
Yeah, so that's an older plan, but that's been adjusted.
So close to that existing pipe. And we have adjusted. I just wanted to point it out to the commission.
Yep, so what we're doing is not the large 54-inch pipe, we're not touching that, but there's several other pipes that collect water from that parking lot and dump into Bessie Pond. And right now it's completely untreated. The water flows over the parking lot with the pollutants. It gets right in and dumps out into Bessie Pond. So what we're doing is we are maintaining the last, 15 feet of pipe, but we're dropping hydrodynamic separators, which are the swirl chambers, on those pipes so that the untreated water is not going to flow through. It's going to be captured in the swirl chamber, and then clean water is going to come out.
The existing drainage pipes that are shown in red from the adjacent properties, for example, Ruland Street and so forth, who owns and maintains that? Is there an easement in place for those pipes? I mean, if that fails, who's that on? I don't know if that's this. And obviously those are being untouched at this point,
That's correct.
basically.
Yep. We're not adding or detracting any flow to or from them.
And one of them goes right under the high school.
Under the high school,
No.
no, under the field.
What about what's the big, long red line that goes right under the high school?
That's the existing pipe. That's all getting removed.
You're gonna remove it?
Yep.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, and for the record, that was Mario Longabuco and Ed Aram. Thank you.
Yeah, we're completely removing the majority of the drainage on site. We're removing, but it's just that the last 20 to 30 feet of those pipes that go down into the right of way, we're leaving that in place.
Well, and basically that's probably state property at that point, isn't it?
That's
sir?
exactly right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Any other commissioners have any questions at this point?
Mm-mm.
I've got a general question, maybe for Amy, Greg,
Go ahead, Donovan,
if that's okay.
please.
And forgive me if this question's been asked at previous hearings, but what's the plan for maintaining an environment which the existing students, teachers, administrators can continue to conduct their business while the buildings are being built in the parking lot? The question is, what's a typical day going to be like to use the facilities during the construction of the other parts? I know a lot of it's going to happen during the summer, but what's the timeline look like in that respect? And what's been built into the plan that is going to allow the teachers and the students and the administrators to continue to conduct business while the other construction is in effect happening like right next door?
Right. Good question. And I pulled up a different site plan. I don't know if you can see it, but the enabling site phase plan
Thank you.
helps to show you the condition of the site during construction. If you can imagine the dark red new building under construction while the pink existing building is in use. So we are trying to separate, or we will absolutely separate the construction activity from any school activity. There will be fencing, unfortunately not shown on this graphic, but between the construction area and the existing building. And that construction fencing will be in place immediately starting this summer before construction begins. And it will delineate the difference between the construction area and the school. So ONG as the CM will also put into place a number of security measures, including background checks on all of the contractors, each individual from each subcontractor. And they will implement badging systems so that only background checked personnel is on site. But even those folks will be required to stay within the construction fence zone. So in yellow, we're indicating traffic, essentially directing parents and students off of Major Bessie up to what you may know of as the existing Little Theater, and that would be a traffic pattern for parent drop-off. And during construction, there will be a new temporary parking lot put in place on one of the fields behind the existing school currently. And that's where faculty and staff will park, shown in blue here. And the yellow along Daily Drive, as I mentioned earlier, will be the bus loop just during the construction phase.
Donovan, was your intent of that question, and I don't mean to skew the situation here, was more so in the daily noise factor and daily construction going on while there's class in session?
Yep.
Was that where you're going?
Yeah, this was very helpful. Amy's, this map is helpful in terms of just the logistics of moving people around. And then the noise factor would also be absolutely one of the things that would, I'm sure.
I think
be
it was the
a
intent.
concern.
Sure,
If
sure.
I may, the construction was, the major construction is kind of
It will be
during the summer
ongoing.
and so forth.
Yeah,
the
it will
majority
be
of it,
on,
right?
it will be ongoing all day.
Right.
7 to 3 or whatever the hours are of school coincides with the construction times.
Sure.
There are, there are times when it may be disruptive as far as the noise goes, but they will try to minimize that. Most of the heavy equipment.
Donovan, in any project, and I'm not an expert, obviously ONG is the experts, with a 2-year window on this project, you're going to have noise for only a certain percentage of this that's really noticeable. Once they get inside doing electrical, mechanical, all the
Drywall.
drywall and so forth, you're self-contained. And I think the noise factor and disruption to outside sources, in the existing school, I think is going to be minimalized. The site work, the majority of the site work, to my understanding, basically once the existing school comes down, there's some extensive site work to create that, and depending on their schedule, that school may come down in the summer months, correct?
That's the plan. That's
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ONG will work directly with the school administration to make sure that on days in particular where there's testing going on today, once a year, there's SATs given. and anything like that, they will make sure that there's no disruptions during those kind of.
And
days.
Donovan, fortunately, there's a team in place that has done this many, many times and has been exposed to these same conditions time after time. So it's reassuring that they're going to do a quality job and keeping everybody's well-being in place.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, and thanks, Greg. I appreciate that. And
Yep.
it's nice to have the hometown team right there, right? The ONG guys. It's a good thing.
Correct.
I also think it's a good thing that the students will get to visualize this project from, inception to, to the final product. And
Right.
because it's not typical to have construction while schools are in session, right? I mean, that's really not,
It's
it's usually knock it down
unusual,
and start all over type of
right,
thing.
or it might be built off site and then you just
Right.
move into it.
Right.
So this is a great opportunity for a teaching moment.
Right.
You're absolutely
Right,
correct.
right.
Kemp and I had a great experience just a couple of weeks ago with ONG on another project that we have under construction. And we were able to welcome the students in and show them some of the
Show 'em what
construction
hard
activity.
work is.
Yeah.
There's a reason why ONG has been as successful as it has been throughout the years. Absolutely.
Correct.
Great. to
Move
learn.
on, Amy. Thank you.
Sure. So I think we have a traffic presentation that we want to include that was a part of our submission to you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Allman. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I'm the traffic engineer on this project. I'm employed by Alfred Benish and Company. We did the traffic study for this development, the new high school and joining of the middle school and the high school. As you know, high school is currently located off of Major Bessie Drive, which is accessed via Winthrop Street. In the vicinity of the site, Winthrop Street is classified as an urban collector roadway. At Major Bessie Drive and Winthrop Street, it is a three-way stop control, one lane in each direction for each approach. At the other side streets along Winthrop Street, the side streets are stop controlled and Winthrop is generally a through movement. There are a couple of all-way stops in the vicinity of the site. Speed limit on Winthrop is 25 miles an hour in the vicinity of the school. We did turning movement counts at 7 locations in March of 2021 when school was in session. The locations were Winthrop at Major Bessie, Winthrop at Amherst, Winthrop at Dartmouth, Winthrop at Charles, Charles at Revere, Winthrop at Brightwood, and Winthrop at East Elm. And we also did 24-hour counts on Winthrop in the vicinity of Dalton Street. I'll get to that in a second. We also reviewed the latest crash data from the January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2020.
Somebody's gonna be muted there.
Please mute your mics, those that are remote, please.
Thought there may be a question. From the Yukon Crash Repository, that's the place where all crash data is collected from the state and collated. Review that data shows there are no crash patterns along the streets in the vicinity of the site or at the intersection studied that would indicate a geometric or any improvements are required. Now, this counts were done, as I said, in March of 2021. Still suffering the effects of COVID, the pandemic. During the pandemic, we know that traffic volumes have been reduced due to changes in traffic pattern, people working from home, et cetera. Comparing the counts, the 24-hour counts we did on Winthrop Street and the DOT counts done in 2018 along Winthrop Street, we find that we need to take those 2021 counts expand them by 7.2% to therefore equate to the old 2018 counts. So we were 7% lower than 2018. So then that by increasing those volumes by 7.2%, we came up with 2021 volumes adjusted to pre-COVID numbers. Next, we calculated the anticipated impact by the school. The school impact new trips is going to be generated by 3 different components. First, they were anticipating to be an additional 137 high school students than are there presently now. We are moving the middle school, grades 7 and 8, to the school, and we're moving the school administrative offices to the site. We calculated those new trips. For the middle school, we actually counted the middle school. So the number of trips that I have anticipated is for the full middle school, which is a bit conservative because that's a 6 through 8, and we're only moving grades 7 and 8. The anticipated number of new trips to the roadway network by this project is in the AM peak, 329 vehicles with 228 entering, 101 exiting. And the PM peak, there will be a total of 241 vehicles, 81 entering, and 160 exiting. That is in addition to what's already out there on the network going to the high school today. As I stated, these are conservative because those include the full amount of trips being generated by the current middle school, but we're only moving grades 7 and 8. Therefore, this creates a conservative or worst case scenario for the school. We did capacity analyses for the 2023 no build and the 2023 build conditions. The 2023 no build is the amount of traffic we anticipate beyond the roadway network in 2023 without the school being improved. That would be, we go to 2023, we don't build a school. What's the traffic level there? That was calculated by taking those 2021 adjusted volumes and increasing them by 1% per year for 2 years. And the 2023 build volumes are those no build volumes, adding those generated trips I just told you onto the roadway network. We did the capacity analysis according to the 2010 highway capacity manual using the Synchro 11 software. And we found that all the intersections currently operate, in 2023 will operate a level of service C or better with no build volumes, and will continue to operate at level of service C or better with the build volumes. All of the side streets will continue to operate at acceptable levels of service. To note, the Major Bessie Drive to Winthrop Street is analyzed as a single lane approach. We're not creating 2 lanes there. This was based on we had a field meeting with the traffic lieutenant. He had concerns, as I do, about making that exit drive 2 lanes. We have school bus on one side, a car on the other side. You can't see, even though it's a 3-way stop. It will operate acceptably as a single lane exit. So that is what is proposed.
So that road is one way out.
Major Bessie is 1 lane out, 1 lane in.
Okay.
Okay, is just single lane
So
exit.
like it is today. Same as today.
Correct. No change from today. There was that, I
So
read
you're
that because there
having
was
buses-
discussion of
You're gonna have buses coming in that way.
in the final condition, the majority of the buses are assumed to use Winthrop using Major Bessie. Probably a half, maybe a half, third of the buses are assumed to use daily.
So you haven't considered having it more exclusive, the site being more exclusive regarding bus traffic. In other words, keeping bus traffic away from parent traffic or student traffic on site. I mean, you have daily drive in the back.
Well, they're going to go up Major Bessie and they're going to split.
I see that was exactly what you'll have to do,
Yeah.
split.
And
But the big concern I have on this is I'm looking at it. And I'm sitting there saying, if buses are going to access through Major Best Drive, then you're going to have the same, as you had indicated, you have these trucks or buses blocking view, and they're competing for the same access to the building that parents
But-
will be, and also students will.
That's as it is today.
I'm
And,
asking if that's the way it's going to be. I know how it is today.
well,
My
it-
concern is what's the plan for the actual site movements? Once the buildings are finished and you've got it all done.
I don't know if this plan is for everyone to enter. The majority of the buses and the parents will enter here. The parents will come up here and use this loop here. And the buses will continue to loop around the school
How many
This
buses are
way.
going to be coming?
and
in
then
at
exit the
time?
same way.
Let me just interject just for a moment, because it may clarify. Maybe answer the question is the high school start schedule the same as the middle school?
Yes,
Okay, all right. So
Yes.
that being said, we have everybody coming at the same. time.
right.
Okay.
You only have one
I
Yeah,
apologize.
no, that's fine.
cohort of buses.
Just to.
Name and for the record.
Ed Aram,
Thank you,
Torrington resident, 43 years. I look young.
Ed. Says you.
Yeah, nobody else. No, majority of the buses will be coming in on Daily Drive because on the east end, there may be 5 to 10 buses that will come through. Right now, as you know, all the buses come through Major Bessie Drive. When this is built, the north end, the west end will be able to come through Daily Drive, and only probably 10 buses will be coming through on Major Bessie Drive.
Exit back out that way.
Correct.
or coming back?
Well, that I don't know yet. Okay, but I know that the majority of buses, because they're on the north end and the west end, will come through Daily
So
Drive.
the plan, Ed, is that the east end will come through Daily,
Correct,
and then the north end and west end will come through Best.
correct.
I had one thought, and when I looked at the site plan, the first thing that jumped out at me was, why not add another access lane into the site, which is on the border of the student lot? In other words, if you look at the student lot, what I think you call the student lot, which is right, the first lot coming in from Best.
Where the
Drive,
skateboard is.
Where the skate park is. If you were to encroach on that a little bit and put in a bus lane, basically that bus lane shoots right into where it's got to go. There's no turns.
If there's a lane there now, and when we tried to do that, the police did not want us to come off because it's close to Amherst Street.
So they didn't like the intersection.
They didn't like them. We wanted to do that. We wanted to have
I
that
thought
lane
you had more
there.
influence in that.
Excuse me?
I thought you had more influence in that.
Yeah.
Maybe if you looked younger.
But we tried to do that.
Okay.
And
I
because
just
of,
looked at that as a
Yeah.
huge, that would be a huge improvement to the circulation.
I know,
The
but
buses take a direct shot into where they've got to
Correct.
go.
but because of Amherst Street right there, it was too close
Yeah, I
to
know,
stop
it's
and
one
so
of those
forth.
staggered,
Correct.
Not a good
The
intersection.
Yeah.
other- And the other issue that the police chief had and the traffic lieutenant had was people building up, having gathered speed coming down the hill
Mm.
and not having enough time to stop, which is why we had our field, that was really the reason we had our field meeting. We had originally proposed the 2 driveways and they didn't want it. And so that's where this came up with. So.
So,
Well,
can-
I
can-
don't
can-
know. I'm just
can I-
trying to get the bus traffic away from the car traffic as quickly as possible on Best Drive. I would look to split that Best Drive off sooner rather than wait till you get to the circle.
Although the other issue that we're dealing with on the site is we're limited on where we can put parking.
Yeah, I understand.
And so, I mean, it really is for the size of the site, and it looks like a large site. It's really tight to get all the program into it, including
Well,
the,
I'm sure the administrators will try to solve it as best
Yeah.
as possible.
I mean, if it becomes operationally, if it becomes a problem, they can certainly put all the buses onto daily.
Yeah.
They're going to do it during the construction. If that is operationally what is best for them.
Yeah, it's not as efficient.
is an
It's
option.
certainly efficient for the east side, but it doesn't, it's
Right.
not as efficient for the west side.
Donovan, did you have a question or comment?
I just, the daily drive entrance, that's not active now, right? That's all new? That's all gonna be new or?
The
Is Daily
road
Drive
is
there now?
currently there. I believe it's closed at this
It's
point.
currently
Oh,
there. There's a
okay.
Gator, there's a fence, I guess, fence across it right now.
So
what's
nobody's
proposed for
using that now,
No,
right?
they're not.
Okay. So we're gonna
And-
have, so after it's all done, we're gonna have a lot more buses coming in through there. So they're not all gonna come in through Major Bessie.
No, well, probably at least half or more. I've been informed. We're coming in through there.
Okay.
That will be gated, actively gated, so that only buses can use it.
Mhm.
If you're driving a car back through there, you're not gonna be able to get through it.
Does that address some of your, a portion of your concern, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Ed clarified by saying at least the administration is gonna obviously look at trying to minimize the bus traffic coming in from Major Best Drive, because I think that there's too much competition on that main road with people coming in, dropping off kids, picking up kids, not to mention other trips that people are making.
There is, because if the concern previously was that hill, you could theoretically get a backup that would still be affecting the ability to stop on the side of the hill.
Right.
Because that's a heck of a hill, right? So
Yeah.
if we've got a lot more bus traffic coming in through Daily Drive, if that's the plan, maybe that's sufficient.
Well, I'm glad to see that they tried to get another road in. I'm happy that you at least attempted to see if you could get that done, and obviously you can't, but.
No.
So I'm.
And there's that that is one benefit of the site, that you have that flexibility.
Yeah.
If they find that they need to use Major Bessie for some of the
Yeah.
buses, they can. If they,
don't. I mean, obviously dating myself, but
yeah,
when I used to park in that parking lot as a student, there was an exit there directly out onto, and I think it's still
it's
there.
still there.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah,
there.
it's my recollection, it's still there. So I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why the police department would like you to cut that off too.
Yes, they were adamant about only having single access.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I get it.
And all the entrance and exit traffic, so to speak, you can turn left or right.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
leaving the site.
It's a three-way stop,
Right.
as it is now. I guess it was changed a couple of years ago.
Has anyone ever thought that there might be a reason why you might need to direct traffic at that corner at any point in time, based on the counts that are coming through?
It's during the 15 minutes of school exiting, it's going to be,
Yeah.
there's going to be backups. There's going to be a lot of traffic, but it's
Yeah.
going to last 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's an always stop. It should be self-regulating. And the analyses show that the queues won't be significant.
Maybe you can get that policeman to object it to direct traffic.
I'm sure they'll be notified if there's an issue.
It'll probably be overtime though. So.
Thank you.
Is that
Any
any
other
other
commissioners have any comments or questions?
Okay, I'll still be here.
Thank you, sir. Amy?
Thank you. That actually concludes our presentation. If you have any other questions about the materials that you have, or would like me to review anything, let me know.
Okay.
We kind of did the enabling phase, which is that during construction phase midway through.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Jeremy, a few comments, please.
Yeah, so, as we can see, this is a fairly large involved project. So we still have a couple other boards. I did distribute a draft memo that I started to put together, but we are waiting for some complete reviews from the city engineer, from the police traffic sergeant, from the fire marshal, from WPCA, and from the building official still.
Well, that being said, Jeremy, I think it's conducive to continue the public hearing. We'll keep it going, get the rest of this information presented at a follow-up meeting.
Yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Yep.
All right. Before we do that, any other commissioners have any questions regarding the information that was proposed this evening?
I think the only thing that I'm thinking about is with Daily Drive is the impact to that small condo community that's right behind it. You know, I don't know what we're going to face when the buses start coming through there. So it's just something to keep in mind that you
Mhm.
might have some pushback there.
That's a good point, Star.
Understood. Yeah, that is a change for that community. That's why we're going to be very careful about the timing of the gate. So the gate at that Daily Drive entrance will be controlled by the automated building system. And so it will be unlocked only for the probably half-hour duration, but in the morning and then again in the afternoon. Otherwise, there will be no through traffic. So we hope to,
Yeah.
kind of
I mean-
impact that neighborhood as little as possible,
We're currently in a telework environment where everybody's kind of working from home.
right?
But as we start moving back to the offices, those adults, those parents that are going to go to work at the same time that their kids are going to school, the line of buses preventing them from leaving their own condos.
So the nice thing about this site is I don't think there will be a line of buses in the community at all. That gate will be open and there's a nice long drive along the, I guess that's the western side.
Yeah.
There will be no traffic of buses in the neighborhood because there's such a queue on site.
Could
So
we
at
potentially
least that,
include-
is a little relief for them as
Okay.
well.
So for your next presentation, could we potentially include that into the map as well so that we can see what that looks like? What the
Sure.
traffic will look like behind?
Sure. So,
Daily
I mean, I'll zoom into it now.
Okay.
You can see that in the scale, a 10-foot parking space is on your right-hand side.
Yep.
And the number of buses that can come in all along Daily Drive, go through that loop of parking area next to the baseball field, and then come down along the bus loop. They'll actually be far more space needed than is required for the,
Well, you're gonna
there's less
have-
than 20 buses.
Yeah, the only issue here is not the stacking. I mean, you have tons of stacking.
We
It's
do.
not- That's never going to be the issue.
No,
I think what Star was talking about is if you can look at the site where those, I don't know if they're apartments or condominiums, whatever they are. That site has the continuation of the road, which they don't see traffic. They see no bus traffic today.
mm-hmm,
And now all of a sudden, they're going to be seeing bus traffic, not only during the construction, but as permanent access to the site.
correct.
So I think Starley's concern is, well, what's that gonna do? Is it gonna raise hell? Not that they're gonna be stacked into the site, because they won't. but
No, they'll
there'll
just be
traffic.
driving
There'll
through.
be just regular traffic.
The other thing I think to consider just down the line is likely those buses are going to come out at relatively the same time on either College Ave or Northridge.
Mhm.
So that's not going to be it's not going to be an easy interchange to get back out onto Winstead Road during, those times. So just something else to consider.
Thank you. All right, anything else at this point? All right, I'm gonna go to the audience, even though this is likely to continue. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Being none, would anyone like to speak in opposition of this application? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and that includes the Zoom members. Being none, the time is 8:33. Do I have a motion to continue this public hearing?
So I move.
I got a motion from Greg Persino. I have a second from Commissioner Greco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll continue this. And we have a suggested date of
420.
4/20/2022. Thank you. The time is 8:33. Moving on to agenda item number 4B, proposed zone change, applicant Michael Leonard, location 2865 Winstead Road. Proposal change zone to local business, LB. It's currently zoned R15S. Is the applicant in attendance, please? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
2865 Winstead Road. What was that?
Make sure they get it.
Michael Leonard.
You have to give your address. too.
My address is 22 School Hill Road, Goshen, Connecticut.
Okay. Were the green cards sent out, the mailings to the neighbors and a sign posted?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir. Please give us an overview of what you're looking to do, sir.
Looking to sell used furniture and used household appliances and whatnot out of the location.
Okay, and currently that zone is residential. You're looking to get it into the local business zone, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And what proximity is this? on
This is the old Burville Firehouse, correct, sir?
Yes.
So it's across the street from Zach and Lou's.
Correct. Jeremy, you have a memo,
I do.
please?
Okay.
I apologize, backing up. Serving on the commission this evening is Starley Arias, Greg Persino, Donna Greco in person, myself, Greg Mealy in person. Serving remotely is Donovan Riley, Tom Tellman, and Diane Carroll. Also in attendance is our city planner, Jeremy Lightford. Please proceed.
Greg, should I read the legal notice?
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Planning and Zoning Commission has scheduled public hearings on the following applications on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 in the City Hall Auditorium, room 218, 140 Main Street, Torrington, Connecticut. 2, proposed zone change, applicant Michael Leonard, location 2865 Winstead Road. Proposal change zone to local business, LB, currently zoned R15S. Time of hearing immediately following the close of the first public hearing, which begins at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner Greco. Jeremy, you want to read your memo?
Yep.
Please.
Proposed zone change, Michael Leonard, DBA Final Move LLC, 2865 Winstead Road, Assessors Map 243, Block 011, Lot 001, from R15S Residential Zone to LB Local Business Zone. Michael Leonard has submitted an application to propose a zone map change from the current R15S residential zoning to an LB Local Business Zone for property located at 2865 Winstead Road, Assessors Map 243, Block 011, Lot 001. The property is 35,073 square feet or 0.805 acres in size. The property is currently owned by Final Move LLC. The property is serviced by both public water and sewer. The applicant has submitted a Class A2 survey titled Proposed Zone Change from R15S to LB, Zoning Location Survey prepared for Final Move LLC, 2865 Winstead Road, Burville Section, Torrington, Connecticut, prepared by David J. Little, licensed land surveyor, dated 1/10/22, one sheet. The map conforms to the zoning map requirements of section 8.7.1 for a proposed change in a zoning district boundary. The subject property is adjacent to property zoned LB on both the north side of the property across Starks Hill Road and to the northeast across Winstead Road. This property would add to a small contiguous cluster of LB zone parcels at the intersection of Winstead Road, Greenwoods Road, and Burr Mountain Road. This LB cluster contains businesses such as Rusty Nail Bar and Grill, the Rusty General Store, Zach and Lou's Barbecue, and a portion of Fergale's Paving to the northeast. A commercial property to the north of this property contains a real estate office and barber shop. The property is a short distance, approximately 400 feet, from public access to the Sue Grossman Trail. In reviewing the application and maps, I have the following comments. 1, this property is the site of the former Burville Firehouse. 2, the property is more than triple the minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet for an LB property. 3, the property has 434 feet of frontage along Winstead Road, a state road. 4, the current building and other structures on the property meet the zoning requirements for the LB zone. 5, the property is adjacent to and directly across the street from other LB parcels. This does not represent spot zoning. 6, the resulting rezoning would create a triangularly shaped LB zone wedge between Winstead Road and Old Burville Road should the proposed zone change be approved. 7, the property is partially adjacent across public streets from an industrial zone on Winstead Road to the east, R15S residential zoning across Burrillville Road to the west, and an R15S residential zone owned by the city of Torrington to the south. 8, the Burrillville section of Torrington is identified as the Burrillville Neighborhood Center in section 7.1 of the 2019 Torrington Plan of Conservation and Development. In my opinion, this requested zone change would further the overall goals of neighborhood planning as outlined in this section by reutilizing this property in an appropriate manner for the location. The zone change would also further the overall goals of the business development section of the POCD in section 8.2, which states 1, maintain basic character and quality of life of the city of Torrington with a suitable mix of residential, commercial, agricultural, and industrial zone property while continuing to provide a mix of residential property. And 2, enhance the city's tax base while maintaining a balance between jobs and housing. Other staff comments. Economic Development Director, Rista Malanka, AICP, Torrington Economic Development Director, verbally indicated her support for the zone change to me. Fire Marshal Edward Becerra, in a letter to me dated 3/9/22, stated the building should be equipped with a complete and compliant fire protection system compatible with the change of use. The fact that it will be vacant during non-business hours make it a prime candidate for the delayed discovery of a fire inside. Torrington makes use of lock boxes to allow quick access by firefighters in the time of an alarm without causing damage. If not already in existence, a lockbox should be installed on the exterior of the building near the main door. The fire department will use its secure master key to open the box and allow the building owner to leave the appropriate building access keys inside. This eliminates any delay in entering the building or waiting for a key holder to arrive in the middle of the night. The building and area must comply with all required building and electrical codes and will be inspected by the fire marshal for compliance with the life safety code prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy and annually thereafter. Engineering Assistant Public Works Director, City Engineer Paul Cousins, in his memo to me 2/9/22 stated the engineering department does not have any comments at this time. Police Traffic Sergeant Dustin Baldus, in an email dated to me 2/9/22 stated I have no comment on this property. Conclusion, the proposed zone change was discussed with the mayor and city staff at the 3/7/22 staff land use meeting, and no objection to the proposed change were voiced. Fire marshal comments will be addressed as part of a future site plan application process. The Connecticut General Statutes requires the commission, when making a decision on the zone change, to take into consideration the plan of conservation and development prepared pursuant to CGS 8-23. In my opinion, the commission can make a finding that the proposed zone change is in accordance with the 2019 Torrington Plan of Conservation and Development. It does not represent spot zoning. I recommend approval of the zone change from R15S residential to LB local business with the effective date the day after the date of publication of the approval.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do any commissioners have any comments?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
The property to the south says on the map, NF, City of Torrington. What exactly is that property?
Used to be an old park
Yeah.
years ago. It's a sandbank.
It is the opposite side of it is a small park with a picnic table. If you go on the far side of the hill.
So the city owns that?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's ever used. Huh.
I saw a van parked there the other day. The guy was sitting at the picnic table eating lunch. That's the first time I've ever seen it used.
Yep.
Any other commissioners?
Quick
Comments?
question, if I may,
All right,
Jeremy,
Donovan.
Jeremy, just maybe because of my lack of knowledge, when you mentioned the wedge shape of the lot, is that a good thing or a bad thing, or a neutral thing?
I think it's kind of neutral in this situation. I mean, there's plenty of room on the site. There's sometimes having a narrow lot like that causes some issues, but I'm sure you've seen that lot enough to know that there is room on it.
Yeah, and it seems like there's plenty of room to go on either side of
Yeah.
the wedge if you're driving on either side. So,
Yeah,
okay.
In this particular situation, it's the very point of the wedge that actually touches the other local business zone. So it doesn't share a large boundary with local business, but it is contiguous.
Okay, that's the effect. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You can always do it.
My comment on this, obviously the biggest component, this is not spot zoning. And I think
Mhm.
with the former use of the firehouse, it was kind of pre-existing non-conforming back in the day for so many years anyway. So I think, it's a positive move. Any other commissioners have any comments or questions before I go to the audience?
What I will say is this, though, is that Jeremy, I think you ought to consider, because the Torrington owns that piece. Torrington ought to consider rezoning that piece.
Yeah, and
Make it all
there,
one.
that was the only notice they had to send out because it's the only abutting property.
Right.
So,
From the
yeah.
point of view, when I look at it, it's a triangular piece, and I agree, it's not spot zoning. It wouldn't be spot zoning if you change that.
Right.
But,
Well, even along those lines, is that a parcel that would ever be sold?
might.
I mean, I don't know how much use it gets. I'd have to ask the,
I mean,
Parks
that may be a
Department about that.
viable component.
Well, the Burrville Fire Department tried to buy it or get it donated to them many, many, many times, and the city would not do it.
One with Park and Rec. Sorry.
All right, well, that's for another evening. I'm gonna go to the audience. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. That includes those on Zoom. Being none, would anyone like to speak in opposition of this application? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. That includes those on Zoom also. Being none, do any other commissioners have any comments or input? The time is 7:46. I declare this public hearing closed, and we will make a decision as soon as Commissioner Greco reads it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve proposed zone change applicant Michael Leonard, location 2865 Winston Road, proposal change zone map to local business, LB currently zoned R15S. The effective date of the zone change shall be the day after publication of legal notice in the local newspaper.
So moved.
I second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Just a quick comment. I know we just closed this out. It's the understanding that everything in this space is done within the building proper.
yeah, and
Yes.
we'll review that. They're going to come back with a site plan application,
Right.
so we'll make sure that's part of the conditions.
Very good. All right. Good luck, sir. Thank you. All right, the time is 8:47. Moving on to agenda item number 4C. We had a proposed zone change. The applicant was O&G Industries, Inc., location 37 Felicity Lane. Proposal was to change zone to R6. It's currently zoned R10. We need a motion to reschedule this to April 20th, 22. And Jeremy's just got a quick comment regarding this, please.
So we found out there was a defect in the mailed notices. They didn't have the zones right on the mailed notices, so that's a defect that we can't move forward with opening the public hearing with. So they have to renotice for a future meeting.
Okay, so I need a motion to reschedule that, please.
I move we reschedule it.
Thank you, Greg. Do I have a second?
Diane, second.
Diane, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Time is at 8:48. Moving on to agenda item number 4D, proposed zoning regulation change. Applicant Leila Campo and Daniel Mayhew. Proposal amend section 6.7 mobile homes and recreational vehicles. Serving on the commission this evening is Greg Parasino, Donna Greco, Starley Arias, myself, Greg Mealy in person. Serving remotely is Donovan Riley, Diane Carroll, and Thomas Tellman. Also in attendance is our city planner, Jeremy Lightford. Commissioner Greco, do you have a legal notice, please?
Yes, the Planning and Zoning Commission has scheduled public hearings on the following applications on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 in the City Hall Auditorium, room 218, 140 Main Street, Torrington, Connecticut. Proposed zoning regulation change, applicant Leila Campo and Daniel Mayhew. Proposal amend section 6.7 mobile homes and recreational vehicles. Time of hearing immediately following the close of the third public hearing, the second public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Greco. Is the applicant in attendance and were the green cards and the sign posted for the time?
It's just, it's a regulation, a textual
Okay.
change. I don't think we need.
Okay,
green cards.
right. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So I'm Charles Ebersol on behalf of the applicants who are here this evening, Leila Campo and Daniel Mayhew. And just by way of quick background, they now own the property that they will be coming forward with an application for a special exception for a recreational vehicle park. They completed the purchase of this property on about 2 weeks ago from Gerald Zordan. So in reviewing the existing special exception language of section 6.7, we came to the realization that there's some outdated numbers and requirements there that we think really should be adjusted. And therefore, we've got a few changes. They're relatively few in number and few in significance. And we'd like to just briefly go over the specific changes, and we will be rather brief. And at this point, I'd like Leila, who's an expert on recreational vehicles, to explain these things. I know nothing about the subject matter.
All right, expert might be a little too high of billing there, but good evening. So when we first started reviewing these with at the time the now ridden off into the sunset, newly retired Marty, he commented that these were actually drafted 30 years ago. And camping, while an institution and not subject necessarily to the same types of crazy changes that a lot of technologies and businesses are, they have had some changes that have taken place. For instance, the cabins that we'll be talking about in a few minutes. But also when they drafted these, they kind of lumped a little bit of two different critters together in one. They lumped now referred to as manufactured home parks, in here referred to as mobile home parks, right? If I use those interchangeably, I apologize. And campgrounds. And of course, a camper could be as small as 12 feet. In fact, Gen Z is really embracing the little tiny retro campers of the days of yore. Whereas a mobile home can be as wide as 26, 28 feet and as long as 100 feet and needs a much bigger site. So the first thing we noticed when we went through the regulations is they were really, since they were commingled, they made the sites, the home sites, I think they referred to it as, really large. I call it grotesquely oversized because if you put a little tiny 14-foot camper on there and they just want a picnic table, a fire ring, and a place to put their camper, the zoning regulations called for them to be 60 feet by 100. And that is far beyond the industry standard of somewhere between 20 to 25 feet wide and 40 to 60 feet deep. So to try to give some flexibility for different size sites, we made a proposal of a site that would be strictly for RVs, not for manufactured homes, that would be approximately no smaller than 1,500 square feet. That would be a minimum of 30 feet wide and 50 feet deep. There was also some language that referred to as square needing, a rectangle needing to fit within that. And a lot of times campsites are done on a diagonal, so that it makes it very easy to park in them. You pull up and you back in on a 45-degree usually. So I would just encourage that that language also be considered. If you're parking a mobile home, then you can just adjust it right, get it perfect once and then leave it and forget it. But campers, will often come and go in as soon as one day. So that point might also be something to consider. When we were going over the 100-foot buffer along all property lines, the one area that would be extremely difficult to obtain is the entry road. And in speaking with the engineers here in town, they had commented that on a lot of commercial standards here in town, like if you were going to be building a Bed Bath & Beyond or a huge parking lot, it would only require a 25-foot buffer. So we're asking for possible consideration of double that, a 50-foot buffer for strictly the entrance road. The next piece for consideration was the fact that the zoning requirements or the zoning allowances, the regulations were originally drafted to allow one staff member to be on site in a more permanent type of a setting to stay beyond the initial, actually, I hope I didn't skip over that part. If I did, I'll come back to it. The length of stay that somebody's allowed to stay in one spot. And they said you could have one staff person per 100 sites. And we had asked that we could possibly be considered for two, or one for every 50 or two for every 100, however you would like to look at that. Currently on the property, we're probably not going to have a manager's house. And so it would be great to have two staff people. We're only going to be proposing 100 sites. So to be able to have two people so they can have shifts that could stagger so that one person isn't responsible at all times overnight would be wonderful. Again, as I've referenced before, one thing that's become very popular in camping is something called a park model RV. And it's important that it's made to RV standards. It has a sticker on it, manufacturing, that indicates it's built to the standards of an RV. It's an RVIA sticker, and that means it meets a lot of criteria. It can't be too big. It can't be a permanent dwelling, that type of thing. But they look on the outside more like a log cabin. They're very attractive, but they are built on wheels and they are mobile. The way the standards read now, we would have to move those every either 179 or 187 days. Depending on how the conversation goes today. So we asked that those be considered to be added to the accessory uses under section U. Accessory uses and accessory structures may be allowed provided for the exclusive use of the occupants of the park, and such accessory uses and accessory structures include, but are not limited to, the following. And they had already included many wonderful things that are indeed features of campgrounds: the offices, your maintenance structures, a restaurant, a store, laundry facilities. And we're proposing, as I skip down a little, number 8, the park model campers. The other piece that we were looking to discuss with you guys and have you vote on is there was a key piece in here that I believe I understand the intent. That was that no camper was allowed to stay on site for more than 179 consecutive days without pulling off site or going into a dedicated storage facility. And I believe that that was written in there to make sure that you don't end up with any year-round residents, which any campground owner worth their salt is also going to be making sure does not happen. And we also straightened that we added a language. I think it said that it's not the intent to allow somebody to use it as a residence, and we crossed that out and replaced that with shall not, to hopefully tighten that up a little. But we did ask for consideration of making that a couple of days longer. From 179 to 187, that would just match the standard camping season in this geographic area. Traditionally, it's April 15th to October 15th. And if that happened, if April 15th happened to be on a Sunday, then most campgrounds would prefer to open that Friday, which of course in that example would be Friday the 13th. But and so we just gave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room there, and we'd already be at a slight disadvantage. I think there's both advantages and disadvantages to it, but most campers that do a seasonal site, which means that instead of just coming in for a weekend, they would bring their camper in on April 15th, leave it and use it as a vacation home or a weekend home for the entire season, or perhaps snowbirds that might be here for the summer. Some of them prefer to park their camper and pay a storage fee and leave it on the same site over the winter. That's what's most commonly done. In this instance, we understand that we can't do that, but it would kind of be a double whammy if we would have to tell people our season's going to be 9 days shorter than every other campground around, and you have to move your camper for the winter. So we're hoping that it would be okay to just lengthen that to the industry standard for this area, that April 15th to October 15th. I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a few. First of all, I did not follow you.
Sorry.
on what a park model RV, I got lost.
Okay.
So help me out there.
Sure. So it's a well-built camper that we would leave on site, we would own, and we would rent out to short stay people that, just rent it out for a weekend or possibly a week for people to come and vacation in it. So instead of renting a hotel room, people rent these cabins from us. They are built to very specific standards. That's that initials I'm talking about, the RVIA. But it just gives people that don't have a camper an option to come and stay on the property and enjoy the amenities.
So where you had spoken about in the previous time we met with you, you had spoken about the fact that you might have cabins. And now what we're really speaking about is this.
But you're saying those are on wheels.
Yeah,
that can be moved.
So they're an RV thing.
They are.
Yeah.
But your intent is to put it on site A and B and leave them there.
Right.
And
Our
you'll-
intent would be to come with a proposal to put 10 on site. And what we would love to do is not have to move them. They're probably about 22,000 pounds. We would love to not have to move them every
I'm gonna use your
100.
guide that you left with me.
Like a
Yes.
tiny house, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
tiny house, but built to very specific standards. Yeah.
And can they rent that in the winter time or no, October 15th?
It would just be
cut off?
during our season.
Okay.
Okay, so in lieu of the fact that instead of building a stick-built cabin,
Correct.
you're gonna buy these things and have them
Correct.
on certain pads and run
What,
out.
what that would preclude is us going to Clotter Farms,
Yeah.
grabbing a shed
Right.
with no fire or electrical, perhaps code
Mhm.
being met, and just popping somebody in it. This gives you that protection of something being built to a specific code.
Or a year.
Because I don't have any issue with the buffer requirement. That seems fine with me. And the 1 for 50 or attendance, 2 for 100 seems reasonable to me. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is the moving the 179 to 87 to me is kind of inconsequential. But if I understand our reg right, which is what I'm not positive of, that means that someone can simply move off and move back on and
No.
just reset the clock. No.
No, they have to be off for, I think it's 60 days,
60 days,
90 days.
90, sorry.
90 days.
Right.
All right. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, and in our conversations,
Oh.
the important part is that someone can't use an RV park to establish residence.
Right,
Permanent,
exactly.
Your,
I
you
mean, we
know,
don't-
your regular residence.
And 9 days may seem inconsequential to us, but you have to understand the passion with which these campers camp. Every single one of them is posting countdowns on their Facebook right now, on their Instagram. When we go to open Cozy Hills on April 15th, there will be a line. We will have to use the in gate and the out gate to accomplish it. And when it comes time to close, the morning that they go into this weekend home for them, where they come to recreate every weekend, they look at how many days your season is. And they every day matters. I can't explain it to you unless you love something as much as these folks love their camping.
And you're suggesting a 1,500 square foot, or rather 30 foot wide by 50 foot pad. instead.
Minimum, yes.
Minimum.
Mhm.
A question.
So that means every pad will be that size?
No, that would be the minimum. It
At
gives
least
us
that
the
size.
flexibility
No, I don't
to,
mean that. There will be nothing smaller, so that'll be the
Correct.
minimum. And every pad, if you didn't do anything bigger, that would be the size of. all.
yes.
When entering this property, off of Plug Hill,
Mhm. That's the proposed entrance, yes.
where does the campground, the campsite start? Do they have to access a long driveway? How far in do they have to go?
There will be a fairly good sized driveway. Some of that is to be determined yet until we know, for instance, what size the sites need to be. We can't start designing the campground itself. We're waiting for this very crucial decision before the engineers and architects could start working on it.
Right,
But it's such an enormous piece of property. I'm sure you know,
Right.
365 acres.
right.
The only section where we are going to potentially have any wetland impact, we can't seem to avoid it on the entrance. So we did have our first introduction and conversation. I don't think you call it a public hearing. I think next month is called the public hearing. But we had our first appearance before planning and zoning to present a proposed layout for the entrance because that will be key. So that's the only piece that's been designed to date because we can't move forward till we know about the site sizes. But roughly, we are looking at kind of putting it right smack dab in the middle between Clug Hill Road and Weed. It would be centered and be very private and very secluded from either of those two roads because it's got just so much massive acreage on either side.
Well, and my concern too would be if these vehicles initially are coming in to get situated, traffic, neighbors. I mean, I have to go up and view the site.
Yeah.
Right, which is good because I feel that,
And if
You have
wanna-
to, you have to be
Please
read it
come
to
up.
the record
People-
if you want to comment.
Yeah.
with people just.
Legal counsel
waiting there.
spoken here.
Let the boss take charge, all right?
Come on, Dan. Name and address for the record.
I am Dan Mayhew with 1311 Bantam Road, Bantam. I understand your concern and it's a valid one, but the driveway itself is close to 1,000 feet in length. So that would allow a number of campers to come in and stage on the property and be clear off the road.
I think that was
not have
her
any
her
issues.
question, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Donna?
right, because I think neighbors would be concerned if, there's this cluster of vehicles.
they wouldn't
and,
see-
until they're all established, but, it's congestion in that country setting, I
Right.
think would be concerned.
And the way that they operate and log in the campers when they arrive, it's a pretty quick process. All of
Right.
the paperwork's done ahead of time, so they can move them quickly. So I don't think that you would ever see an issue with staging anywhere other than on the property itself.
We have 180 sites at Cozy Hills and our driveway is a fraction and we
I'm
don't back
familiar
up,
with that,
except for
yeah.
opening day, as aforementioned, in the
Right.
excitement of that
Right.
initial opening. But we will have 70 check-ins at Cozy, which you would never see with only 100 sites. It would be staggered more than that. And with maybe a 225-foot driveway, we don't have that issue. But with so much property, there's
Right.
just going to be so much ability to buffer the neighbors from this. Yeah.
Good.
And the entrance, we had a number of, which this will be a matter for the time when we actually get to bring the plan, which we'll be so excited to do when we get to bring you the plan. But when we were looking at the entrance, we had to achieve no grade steeper than 12%. We wanted very much to improve the sight lines. We did not want to impact more than, as little impact to wetlands as possible, but certainly less than 5,000 square feet because that triggers certain things. And I feel like there was one other piece we were trying to, obviously the buffer lines and
Road widening or
road
driveway
widening.
widening?
Yep. We want to widen the roads. And so quickly, when we looked at our options, we realized it was pretty clear the one we needed to do. And again, we did it with the neighbors in mind and reducing that impact too. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
There was a house on there and you had mentioned it last time. Is there still a
It's
plan?
gonna be like the clubhouse.
The
So
house
your
that's
plan is to-
currently on the property that Jerry Zordan lived in, yes, we will be looking to make that the primary, the main floor would be the store and the check-in area for the campers. It's a beautiful place, yeah.
How many, what's the estimated count of sites you'll have?
100.
100.
Very
Quick question about the, just to go back to the cabins. So you're gonna leave wheels on those structures so they could be moved?
Yes,
Or,
legally, that's important because, you don't want it to be a permanent situation, but you put lattice around it. There's different ways you disguise it nicely and they have lovely wooden porches on them. You really wouldn't notice. You would just see lovely wooden steps going up. I can provide you all. Certainly when we come to you with the real plan, I will bring good pictures. I'm sorry I didn't bring them today.
Along those lines of those units, are they tires jacked up off the ground? At
No,
that
we
point
leave
with the
them,
skirts,
we
or
leave
they
them,
just
we
stay
don't
there?
move ours very often, so we do leave them on the ground. Certainly, if we were ever to take them on the road, we'd probably change those tires because
I was gonna
having
say,
sat
you
on the
have flat
ground, but
spots on them.
Jack them slightly to stabilize.
Sure.
Okay.
And that's it. And then we put skirt around the bottom. Pull the tongues off, put them underneath
Yeah.
and skirt it and you'd never know.
What was the intention, if anybody happens to know, with the existing regs to limit the number of staff on site? That it would seem like more staff would be a good thing, which is
Yeah,
what you're
that's actually
proposing.
correct. More staff is a good thing.
Yeah,
I just think my best guess is not to, maybe they didn't want to have 10 of the sites classified as staff, being a little bit, I'm using air quotes there for the record, and living there. That would be
Okay.
my guess, is to limit that so it couldn't get taken advantage of.
makes
But
sense.
just a guess.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a quick question, this may be premature, for the final build out. Served by well, city water, sewer, septic?
Are
Which
you guys
ones?
going to put in sewer and city water?
That's my question. No, because, from an overall standpoint, just
Yes.
to verify,
Yes.
is there infrastructure work that's gonna be done somewhere else, off-site, so to speak,
Correct.
so you're gonna be kind of self-contained well. and
We
septic
are.
and so
And
forth,
at
right?
Cozy Hills, we have 4 wells and a number of septic systems, all built with the
Certainly.
state and the Torrington area health
Right.
in the same situation.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be a pretty long sewer extension.
Why not, right?
Why not?
I would be the envy of all campground owners. Any campground that has sewer is just the envy of all their neighbors.
My campground does.
Yeah.
Every Marriott, I think, has one, right? That's my idea, camp. So.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the new campers. We just bought a fifth wheel, a 42.5 foot fifth wheel to leave in Florida year round. And you can't believe it. I mean, granite countertops, it's got a kitchen island, a full-size residential refrigerator. Ours doesn't have a dishwasher. A lot of them do. Washer and dryer. The bathroom, double sinks in the
King-size
bathroom,
bed.
king size bed, cedar seat in the shower so you can sit down and sit under the rain head. And yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. They're beautiful.
So along those lines, and I'm with you, I mean, the magnitude of the campers and so forth are wonderful. You can actually put full-size, like Greyhound bus style campers in the sites, correct?
Yep. We can even do that at Cozy, which Cozy Hills was built in 1963 and has some, Cozy Hills is aptly named. Some of our grades are like 18, 20%. So we have to work with that because that's what we have to work with, that topography. But yes, rigs will come in. They will have a 45, 48 foot $1 million bus, Prevost or a Tiffin, and they'll be pulling a trailer. And some of them are toy haulers on top of it. So they might be pulling a car. And then after they detach the car, a golf cart will roll out. And
That's why we said the sites were minimal.
Yeah.
Some of
That's a
those
minimum.
Premium sites would be larger. to accommodate that.
Yep. Ideally, though, a campground would have a variety of sizes to accommodate different styles. Yep. Hi, Diane.
Now, is it your intent to just rent those sites, or I want to put my Greyhound bus style over there? That site is not for sale, correct? Okay. Because I know in other states like Florida, I know they have.
They do. They do a lot of
parks, so to speak.
co-ops. There's even a couple of co-ops in Connecticut. I'm too much of a control freak. Yeah, no, then you're basically running a condo association. You have to have a board of directors. All sorts of things have to happen. And we are really happy with the short stay. I hate the word, but the industry word they use is transient camper, which just means a short stay camper. In fact, as we talk about offering up the option of a longer season, we actually don't plan on offering any seasonal sites at the campground for now. The industry is always changing like everything. Right now, camping is so in demand that we'd rather just have 100 short stay sites, because the longer they stay, generally speaking, with just my business hat on, they generally pay a lower rate. They don't spend as much on souvenirs in the store. And so we just like to keep it a little fresh, have that turnover, those new people that are always excited about coming in, and that short stay camper. The average stay at Cozy Hills is something like 4.5 days right now. Yeah.
With the amount of acreage that you have available, if hypothetically this goes through, are we going to see you to add another 100 and another 100?
Well,
I guess that's a conversation. For
it
another
really
day.
depends on the industry. I mean, all of us are watching the gas prices. Right now, there's not enough campsites in Connecticut, but 100's a big ad. And if we're sold out and people are just thriving to come here, then certainly we would probably try to have the conversation if we're not burdening anybody, if it's a good thing. I mean, you guys will know. Yeah. But there's very specific requirements. DEEP has a threshold of water usage, and they allow us to use, they project that we use 75 gallons per day for camper, actually 50, and they have a buffer. But after we go over that 7,500 gallons of water per day, it gets harder and harder to expand. So we certainly wouldn't be coming to you for another 100 sites, because it would be a smaller amount if we did.
Well, along those lines, and I've experienced this in another business area. Do you put water meters on to monitor your total usage?
Yes, all of our wells will be monitored.
Well, yes, but really what's important for us to monitor is the other side.
The discharge?
Side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the advantage we have with building a new campground that we didn't have with Cozy. You know, it's very difficult to retrofit those types of monitors. So we'll have that all included. Because if somebody washes a car or they're watering their grass, all that gets calculated in the usage, but it doesn't belong in the usage. 'cause it's
Right.
not going to-
Well, and that's it. A lot of those numbers, and I'll give you the example in a restaurant. X number of gallons per day, the septic system has to be based on. Well, you know what? 2 of those gallons are walking out with the people that just consumed, coffee and sodas and beverages and so forth.
Yeah.
So you may find monitoring, that level comes way down and you have a lot more room.
Yes, your big issue is filling up your swimming pool, or if you
Right.
set up a little slip and slide for the kids, you can't
Yeah.
believe how much water evaporates and goes. Yeah, if you ever have a splash pad, which is really popular, you lose 25% of your water to evaporation every day. Yeah. So there's definitely pieces. And then, if you let campers have a lawn, even when you tell them that we're in a drought and they can't
Let's not get
water, then
crazy here.
they go out and they water at 5 a.m. So we'll be gravel sites are good. That's another reason to have those shorter stays.
Indoor, outdoor
They
park. Let's
water
go.
their lawn when
All
they're
right.
We
camping.
have
We have
a family
sod.
that- We have a family that's in the water business, and because you don't allow them to water during the peak season when it's dry,
They bring their
they
own.
bring their own in.
Yeah, they bring 500 gallons of water in so they can
My
water
kids
their lawn.
know, when you see some of these sites, they're gorgeous.
Again, those are the
Wow.
seasonal sites. Those are the ones that stay with us all season.
Sure.
And that's not the model that we're proposing here, but people take so much pride and enjoyment. I mean, if you've ever watched people get on a cruise ship, it's every bit as much of enthusiasm for camping. I cannot describe it if it's not something that you've experienced, but
It's a vacation. It's an affordable vacation
Yes.
for so many young families. And I spoke to somebody, they live in Watertown. They just purchased a new camper. And I mentioned there may be a new campground in this area.
yes.
We're in from Watertown.
It's funny.
It's like-
There was just the one article in the paper that came out. And of course, unfortunately, the picture didn't correlate with the right property. But we then have done 3 RV shows since then. And it just said, one article that said Cozy Hills new campground. And that was the single biggest question. They're so dialed in. They know it's in Torrington. They know it's Cozy Hills that's building it. And they made a beeline for our booth just to ask us. It's the enthusiasm is
Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah. And again, I'll say, especially on the western side of Connecticut and eastern New York, there is just not enough campsites. Some people are just throwing their hands up and selling their camper because they can't get a site. We had a family that had booked a 6-week stay with us at Cozy. And they just called and canceled and said they were trying to travel up north after us and they couldn't find a single site. This is for June. And they can't find anywhere to stay.
Well, Volkswagen is coming out with another camper. Aren't they very compact?
Well, now there's electric, all electric campers are
Yes,
rolling out. Yeah.
All right, let's keep
Okay.
this moving along. Any other commissioners have any other comments or questions at this point? All right, Jeremy, you have a memo and maybe just highlight the components that are really looking to be changed here.
Yep.
Please.
Yeah, so when I go through, I did put the whole regulation section in the memo, and I'll just skip to the sections that were amended.
Please.
All right, proposed revisions to zoning regulations, section 6.7, mobile homes and recreational vehicles. Leila Campo and Daniel Mayhew have filed an application for a text amendment to the zoning regulation section 6.7 governing mobile homes and recreational vehicles. Their proposed amendments are specific to recreational vehicle parks. This section of the regulations was initially adopted around 1992 and last comprehensively amended in 1998. The intent of this proposed zoning regulation is to modify the regulations to adapt to evolving national standards for RV parks. The applicant has provided the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA standards for recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds as a reference for the proposed amendments. The proposed amendments are noted below. And I'm going to skip to G, to letter G. And you'll see your copies highlighted in red. And section G should read, for a mobile home park, a home site shall have a minimum of 6,000 square feet. Each home site shall be of sufficient size to contain a 60-foot by 100-foot rectangle. The boundaries of each home site shall be marked with permanent markers. For a recreational vehicle site, the site shall have a minimum of 1,500 square feet. Each RV site shall be a minimum of 30 feet wide by 50 feet deep. Section H, each home site in a mobile home park shall have at least 60 feet of frontage on an interior road. Skipping down to L, there shall be a 100-foot buffer along all property lines. The intent of the buffer is to provide a visual barrier between the park and the surrounding properties. Except for the interior road running roughly particularly perpendicular to the buffer, there should be no roads, home sites, parking spaces, or structures placed in the buffer. For property access roads, there shall be a 50-foot buffer along all boundary lines. Existing vegetation shall be preserved wherever possible. The commission may require fencing or plantings to supplement or replace existing vegetation. Down to letter R at the bottom of the page. Recreational vehicle parks shall not be a place of permanent residence. A recreational vehicle shall not remain on a home site for more than 187 consecutive days. At the end of the 187-day period, the recreational vehicle shall either be removed from the park for a period of at least 90 consecutive days or placed in an on-site approved storage area. The only exception to this requirement is for one recreational vehicle per permanent dwelling per every 50 home sites in the park used by the park owner or by employees responsible for the operation of the park. And then down to letter U. Accessory uses and accessory structures may be allowed provided they are for the exclusive use of the occupants of the park. Such accessory uses and accessory structures include, but are not limited to, the following: 1, park offices; 2, maintenance structures; 3, restaurant; 4, retail store; 5, laundry facilities; 6, bathroom facilities; 7, recreational facilities; and 8, park model RVs as defined in NFPA 1194 and certified by manufacturer to be in compliance with ANSI A 119.5. Okay, and then skipping down to other staff comments. Economic Development Director, Rista Malanka, AICP, Torrington Economic Development Director, verbally indicated her support for the proposed text amendment to me. Northwest Hills Council of Governments, application information sent 2/17/22, no comments received. Fire, no comments received. Engineering, no comments received. Police traffic, no comments received. Conclusion, the main proposed changes to the existing regulations are reduction of the minimum site size for RV park sites from 6,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet, and should say a minimum of 30 feet wide by 50 feet deep. Larger sizes remain for mobile home parks. Reduction of the property buffer for main access roads reduced from 100 feet to 50 feet. Interior park roads and sites remain at 100 feet. Lengthen the seasonal occupancy of sites from 179 to 187 days. Language also strengthened to prevent permanent residency at RV parks. And the last is add regulation to allow for park model RVs. The proposed text amendment was discussed with the mayor and city staff at the 3/7/22 staff land use meeting, and no objections to the proposed change were voiced. The Connecticut General Statutes requires the commission, when making a decision on a zoning text amendment, take into consideration the plan of conservation and development prepared pursuant to CGS 8-23. In my opinion, the commission can make a finding that the proposed zoning text amendment is in accordance with the 2019 Torrington Plan of Conservation and Development. The amendments as proposed are relatively minor in nature and do not fundamentally change the regulations on mobile homes and recreational vehicle parks. I recommend approval of the regulation text amendment as proposed above, with the effective date the day after the date of publication of the approval.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I
Go ahead, Greg.
I don't see the attendance 1 for 100 versus 1 for 50, 2 for 100.
I didn't highlight that one in red. It's in,
Okay.
it's,
But I was listening to your summary and I didn't see it
Well,
listed.
you skipped around a couple of those.
Okay.
You know
All
what I mean?
right.
it's in letter R, like towards the end of letter R.
Okay. That's
I
fine.
forgot to highlight that one in red, so it's just sitting there underlined.
Okay, on the 50-foot buffer on the front road, I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here. You got 50-foot buffer on the side yard, side setbacks, backyard. You got a front yard setback of only 50 feet. Do you intend to have RVs that up front like that? Or campsites?
Well, they're moving everything back anyway.
No, I realize that, but what I'm trying to point out is the reason for the buffer is to keep a unit that
So-
far away from. So I'm saying now you got 50 feet to the.
The
front
buffer
door.
is strictly for the entrance road. I
Just
think-
for the entrance. right?
Any, the way it's written is any sites or interior roads have to still be 100 foot. So, if there's a big circular road and there's sites on the outside of it, those sites still have to be 100
Okay.
feet from
All right, I got it.
the property.
Anyone else have any comments? All right, I'll go to the public. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. And include Zoom. Being none, would anyone like to speak in opposition of this application? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, including those on Zoom. Does the applicant have anything else to add, or you're all set?
No, we don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, the time is 9:24. I declare this public hearing closed, and we will make a decision as soon as Commissioner Greco reads it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve proposed zoning regulation change. Applicant Leila Campo and Daniel Mayhew. Proposal amends section 6.7 mobile homes and recreational vehicles. The effective date of the regulation change / amendment shall be the day after publication of the legal notice of decision in the local newspaper.
I have a motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So moved. Good luck.
There you go. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you again,
folks.
I'm sure.
All right.
Good night.
Moving on to agenda item number 5, old business. We have none. Moving on to agenda item number 6, new business. A special exception 22-03 and site
No, it's this
plan
one.
1408. Applicant is LCP Realty LLC, location 37 Felicity Lane. Proposal change of use to primary parking lot, former residential use. We were going to set a public hearing date. That application needs to be tabled at this point.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Moving on to agenda item number 6B, zoning and blight violation update. I believe we have nothing at this point.
We have nothing. I'll just update that we do have interviews for our zoning official / assistant city planner next week. So
Excellent. Right, moving on to agenda item number 7A, discussion about new cannabis establishment regulations. We're looking to continue our engagement with the mayor and the city council on a meeting April 20th, 2022 at 6 PM again. Do I have a motion for that?
What's the date, Greg?
April 20th at 6
4:20.
PM.
Okay,
Is that
Okay.
with city council? again?
Yeah,
Correct.
it's the same as before.
Oh.
Yeah.
okay.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Moving on to agenda item number 7B, discussion for agritourism.
agritourism.
Thank you.
I didn't wind up pulling all those printouts that I had on the printer, but I mean, in a nutshell, agritourism is other things kind of accessory to a farm or very, very adjacent to a farm use that folks can do, that farm owners can do to sort of supplement their incomes. Things like, I don't know, haunted hay rides and other events and event type things on farms. We've had a few larger property owners come in asking us to examine this. So we are considering hiring an outside planning consultant to work over some possible, we'd have to go through and do some amendments to our POCD first, and then consider some possible regulation amendments after. But the planning consultant would do some analysis for us to see if, see how we can approach it. What I wanted to do is just take everybody's temperature and make sure we're not, completely opposed to at least examining
I think it's a good idea.
Would it include horses?
well, horses are already allowed,
It's already allowed?
depending on lot size.
Okay.
But this would be things outside of your normal scope of farming activities. They'd be special events or yeah, it could be any number of things. what I could do is actually send out the information that I was supposed to hand out tonight that are sitting on the copier upstairs.
That's fine. Send it by email.
Yeah, I'll just do
That's
that
fine.
then.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll follow up.
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
good.
So I just wanted to make sure we're okay with going forward with the consultant.
Yes.
Who
That's
will,
fine.
will bring us back some information
Yes,
Yeah.
information would be good.
on a possible POCD update, and then we decide what to do beyond that.
Sounds good. All righty. The time is 9:29. Moving on to agenda item number 8, adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move. Good night, everyone. Have a
Thank you,
good evening.
everybody.
Thanks for all your.
Thanks,
input.
guys.
Good night.
Right.